Brianna Thornton. I'm an art education major at Penn State and an intern at the Palmer Museum of Art. This week's video in our museum sketchbook series is inspired by artist Laylah Ali. Before we start creating, let's take a look at her work that's in the Palmer's collection. Laylah Ali is a biracial female artist. She was raised in a white working-class neighborhood just outside of Buffalo, New York, where her light brown skin made her feel different from both her family and other people in her neighborhood. For nearly a decade, from 1996 to 2005, Ali produced small-scale paintings in a series known as the Greenheads. The carefully drawn figures in the series present mysterious, round-headed beings of unknown race and gender. Many of them exist without body parts such as arms, legs, or heads. In the case of this untitled print in the Palmer's collection, the beings are shown as only heads against a plain blue-black background, seemingly suspended in space and orbiting in some story with no beginning or end. With just a few colors and elements, Ali defines features such as skin color, hair, and teeth, as well as expressions, emotions, and gesture. Ali describes her human-like forms as figurative question marks that force viewers to self-reflect and offer interpretations based on their own beliefs and biases. For this reason, we selected Laylah Ali's work to feature because it especially feels important and relevant right now. In following Laylah Ali's lead, our sketchbook prompt this week is to explore portraying character through very limited colors and shapes. Using simple shapes, such as the circles that Ali uses, create characters or portraits that have various expressions, gestures, attitudes, whatever you can think of.
Hi, this is Jules, and I'm going to share how I use Laylah Ali's work to inspire my sketchbook page. The thing that strikes me about her work first is her use of color, so I decided to start by testing out some different colors to use for my sketchbook page. I used my Prismacolor markers and colored pencils because I wanted to incorporate texture. I really like the blues in her work, so I decided to use those and test some colors, and also test some oranges because I like the contrast between those two colors. After I decided on all my colors, I was ready to start working in my sketchbook. I started my sketchbook off by drawing the characters in pencil before filling them in with color. I looked at some of Ali's other works online for more inspiration, which I encourage you to do if you want to see what other styles she works in. I noticed that some of her other works included bodies that were almost stick figure-like, and that really stuck with me, so I decided to include that in my scene. I started by outlining the bodies in black and then filling them in with my Micron pens. After the bodies were filled, I realized that you couldn't really see the arms and legs, so I used a white gel pen to outline and add dimension. Then I started filling in the heads with the colors I had decided on. I used both my Prismacolor markers and colored pencils to do this, and then outlined them in black and added details like hair. While I continue filling out my sketch, check out to see what the rest of the team is working on.
For this sketchbook prompt, I decided I wanted to use several different techniques. So I started by cutting some different colored paper circles. Then I mapped out where I wanted them to go and painted over with watercolor. After that dried, I started filling in part of a quote that I was going to use for this prompt. I lined that with black marker and then cut out the circles where I had traced them earlier. On the next page, I wrote the rest of the quote and then painted with watercolor as well. I filled that in with paint marker and also lined the text so it just stood out a little bit more and was a little bit more noticeable. Then I glued down the circles that I had cut in the places that I had already mapped out and added faces. Then I added some protest signs and created more circles to fill in the extra space and kind of add that feeling of a crowd that I was going for. When it's finished, you can see the original faces come through the first page, and when you open it up, it reveals the rest of the faces on the next page.
I usually tend to go right into my drawings with marker and not plan anything out beforehand, but I definitely recommend not doing that. I decided to make my characters ovals so that they could easily represent heads. I decided to make an oval to represent each important person in my life, and the 4 at the bottom of the left page represent the groups that I'm part of. The right page is family and the left side is friends. When I added faces, I kept it simple and added smiles for all the females and straight faces for all the males. I gave the oval that is supposed to be me some outward lines to differentiate. While I started coloring, we can see what everyone else is doing for their sketch.
This is Jules again. As you can see, I made some progress filling in some more of my characters. I pulled a lot of inspiration from Ali's work when I was deciding what I wanted my characters to look like. I changed the shape of some of the heads, but decided to go back to using circles. I wanted to make all the bodies in different positions to give the sketch more movement and make it feel more like a real scene. Here, I'm really trying to alternate which colors I use as I fill in, and alternating between blues and oranges, sometimes using both in the same character. I'm not sure why I decided to include only one floating head, but I like that it is the one character that is different and has a more unique helmet hair situation going on, and your eye is drawn to it floating in the middle.
I started by tracing circles on my page in various sizes, using items from around the house. As I looked at Laylah Ali's work, I started seeing lots more detail in the expressions and how she changed the characters with just small adjustments. I liked the simplicity of them, and I ended up copying specific features instead of coming up with my own. I wouldn't normally do this, but it really helped me understand Ali's work better, like the idea that all the heads are related because they're all created from some combination of the same 3 colors. And even though there are similarities, each one is unique. After doing this page as a copy, I felt more ready and able to create my own characters, but I don't have it to show you. Instead, my teenager Alec was doing sketchbook time with me during this and ended up creating little characters from different shapes. The square one looks like a happy little Minecraft character, and I like how the little triangle head looks just very confused.
Hey, I'm back. When I started adding color to my ovals, I colored them in ways that best represent them to me. The groups at the bottom got colors that they're associated with. So, like for the first one, I colored blue and white because that oval represents my Penn State running club and friends I've made at college. The rest of the heads on that page got colors from the schools that I met those people at. So the red and blue ones are people from my high school, and the top ones are my roommates. My family were all colored the color of their bedrooms, and my dog got his yellow bandana. It looks silly so far, but my art tends to be very symbolic and always means a lot to me with every decision that I make. With that, let's check back in on the rest of the team.
Alright, I'm back to finish up my sketchbook page. I'm really happy with how all of my characters turned out and how they're all different and moving around the page. I'm also glad I decided to test some colors out before I started filling in because it gave me a better idea of where I want to place color, so I would recommend doing this for sure. When all of my characters were filled in, I felt like something was missing. I didn't want to add a complicated background because I thought it would take away from the drawings. Instead, I just decided to use some different colored pencils that I had used throughout the sketch to add a light shading around each character, almost like an aura around them. I had so much fun filling out this page and trying some new techniques and styles I have never done before.
Hi, it's Hannah again. After my faces were done, I took a different marker and added more circles. Then with even thinner markers, I added a few more circles and then some triangles. These shapes are meant to represent other people in my life, other people that I may know of, and others that I don't. I filled them into the empty spaces because different people are always around you. And just because these other people don't particularly stand out to me doesn't mean that they aren't just as important as anyone else. For that reason, I decided to give the extra people bright colors because I believe that every person deserves a chance to be seen among the crowd. This page was really fun to fill out, and I think it also does a good job of illustrating my thoughts. Thanks for hanging out and learning about my sketch.